So I'm making this video in an attempt to produce something at the moment. Because right now I'm feeling pretty stuck. It's feeling not that great for me right now. And I feel like if I'm to feel this way, I might as well turn it into content of some kind. So I'm here, and I'm playing Minecraft at 11:42 at night. I don't know when I'm going to be done doing this, but I'm just going to go until it feels right. I have had a hell of a time today. Let me tell you, it has been pretty rough. I've been working on this project for the past few months called Making Sense of Violence, where I break down and analyze the theme of violence in relation to a work called Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. It's a novel, it's a western, written in 1985, and it's probably my favorite book of all time. And I'm doing this in conjunction with my podcasting class, which the people in there are probably listening to this right now, so hi. I'm talking to you from the past, so I'm basically doing time travel right now. If you think about it hard enough, that's something for you to ponder over while you're listening to this. And as I've been making this, it started off like all my other projects. I spent about a month doing research and gathering information on the subject at hand. Blood Meridian is, much like every one of McCarthy's other works, rife with historical context and symbolic and religious context and all of these things that require a lot of studying. And on top of that, I went and I watched Wendigoon's video on Blood Meridian to try to get at least a decent overview of what the general, I guess, literary analysis consensus on the subject is. And I've been working on this for the past couple months in my podcasting class. We've been going over it. It's nothing I haven't done before, and as I've been making this script, it's all been going good. I built it up, I spent about a week writing it. It came out 19-page script, which is pretty decent for me, and I presented it to the class, and I got some kind of lukewarm feedback on it. Which is weird, because normally my stuff is pretty well received, and the primary complaint that people had was that while the script would work great in a YouTube video setting, for a podcast, it just doesn't really work. They said that this feels like something that needs a visual medium to go along with it. And on the car ride home from that class that night, I was reading over it and I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I wrote this. And I quickly scheduled a Zoom meeting with my professor, and we talked, and he kind of told me what needed to happen, and he gave me some really good ideas, and I went and I did them. And for the past week, I've been kind of managing things. I've been putting together sound bites and music and other things to go along with the podcast, and I woke up this morning to get things recorded and settled in and start editing, and I was just having the worst time. I immediately woke up on the wrong side of the bed, metaphorically, but also a little bit literally. I have this tendency to have these weird hamstring cramps when I wake up in the morning sometimes, and they did not go easy on me today, and so I woke up in just this awful fucking pain, just feeling terrible and not really in my best state of mind, I guess. But I understand that I have work that needs to be done, and so I, went, did everything, recorded stuff, and I really struggled with it. Normally when I'm recording, it's a pretty fairly straightforward process. I just sit down with the script, or I stand up, actually. I don't sit down while I narrate. A little pro tip, it gives you a more kind of clear diction and tone of voice. And I began narrating, and everything just felt a little off. Like I wasn't quite hitting my mark, but I still have this project due, and I can redo it later, and when I do the YouTube version, I'll just redo the narration, blah, 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 blah. And I went and I recorded everything, and that took me about 4 hours. 4 hours for an edited version of a 19-page script that was about 10 pages now. And I was miserable the whole time, sitting there with my little blanket over me, recording so that the sound was right. And then when I got back from doing that, I have a separate place that I record. When I got back to my room, I just realized I was exhausted, and I went and I laid down, and I took a little nap, and I woke up about 4 hours later, and I got up, and I opened my editing software, which of course needed an update, and so I had to mess around with all the stupid BS involving that. And I started editing, and I ported the files into Filmora, which is the software I use, and all of the audio was basically unusable. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's like, for some reason, I guess my finger or the blanket that I was using or something was in front of the microphone, and all 38 recordings that I did for that session were muffled and more or less impossible to make anything out of. There's nothing that I could have done with that meets my standard of quality. And I sat in my chair, and I was sitting there at my computer watching this happen and listening to the clips over and over, just kind of hoping and praying that I could salvage something out of it. And I started crying, and a big part of why I started crying is because this is something that's been happening to me for roughly 2 months now with every project I try to do. Since my last video, there's been about, I'd say, maybe 5 or 6 scripts that I've tried to put together, all on various topics. There was one for Blood Meridian, there was one for a game called Fear and Hunger. I tried to do one on another little indie game called Milk Inside a Bag of Milk Inside a Bag of Milk. And I actually got a decent way into production with that one before I started feeling unhappy with it. And it's this kind of phenomenon that's really scaring me, because it's something that has happened before. I love being creative, and I've been creative my whole life, and I love doing things and making things. But for some reason, just every now and again, I will stop. Something will stop me from being creative. I don't know what. It's this weird, like, undefinable force. I don't know how else to put it. It's like, it's almost like depression, but it's not quite. I know what depression feels like, and this isn't it. It's just that, okay, I lose momentum. That's how I'll phrase it. I lose my momentum to keep creating things, and then I stop. And normally that's the end of whatever current obsession I have. In the past, I think my longest kind of creative fixation has been drawing. I started drawing when I was really little, and I stuck with it for a really long time, and I actually got really good at it. Not to toot my own horn, people watching the YouTube version of this video can see a picture of that stuff, my most recent stuff that I did up on screen right now, and I actually got pretty good at it. But as time went on, I just ran out of steam. I couldn't do it anymore. Something just changed in the way that I felt about it. And I don't really know why that is, but I have a few running theories right now. The most prominent of which is this idea that unless I'm able to sit down and give a really big chunk of my time to something, I am not really able to get invested in it, and therefore I'm not really able to make any progress with it or make anything worthwhile out of it. My most recent slump with my most recent obsession, that being producing and narrating and making YouTube videos, started about 2 months ago when I began my college program. I'm in high school, but I am doing college classes because I don't know. I actually couldn't really tell you why I'm doing that. A lot of things in my life have changed recently. And so the reasons for me doing it is kind of weird and vague, but I'm doing it anyways. I'm sticking with it. Even if it's just for the sake of sticking with it. And around that time started, and I wasn't really able to give, 110% of my attention to making scripts or coming up with ideas for videos or researching. This sort of slump started where I wasn't really able to produce anything I feel worthwhile. I got like 13 pages into the Fear and Hunger script, which for me, that's like 3/4 of the way through a script. That is a huge amount for me. And then I just stopped. And I try as I may and try as I might, I have yet to be able to sit down again and finish it. Because I just can't, and I don't know why. And this is a part of being a creative that literally everyone who's ever tried doing it goes through. I know that for a fact. There's this sort of discovery phase, and I'm 16, about to be 17, and that's, right in the window for that discovery phase to take place. And I know that it's normal, but at the same time, I feel very frustrated, and I feel very scared of it, because what it's ending up doing is it's making me waste a lot of time and effort on doing things that I don't think I really want to do. I don't really enjoy the process of writing. I don't really enjoy the process of making a video anymore. It's scary, honestly, and it's part of growing up, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little bit afraid of that. Things in my life have a potential to change very, very quickly at the current moment. I was recently contacted by a foreign exchange student program because my school had flagged me as somebody who they thought would potentially be interested in participating, and they're right. I would love to go to wherever, probably Japan, because I'm a fucking weeb. But because of what's happening with this kind of creative slump I'm in, and I enter and exit pretty frequently, it makes me afraid of what's gonna happen if I do end up going there. I'm in high school, so I'd be living as a high schooler in Japan, which is a very, very busy time with even more schoolwork than I already participate in. And if my current passion is for Japan and Japanese culture, which it is, I have a massive, unbelievable obsession with it and all of its motifs, am I going to lose that if I can no longer put that amount of effort into it because of the school that I'm going to there? It might be one that's renowned for being rougher on its students or lighter on the students, but I'm worried that that passion will go away like it has with a lot of these other things. There's still more YouTube videos I want to make. I have a couple ideas in my brain still. But I think, at least for now, this is going to be my current format. Just kind of sitting down with something that I enjoy doing and just talking, I guess. Because, in all honesty, that's A, that's what I'm good at. I'm good at just sitting down and talking and making something out of a conversation with myself. But B, that's all I really can do at the moment. And I find that really frustrating. There's a lot of things in my life that I definitely haven't lost passion for, which is good because it means I'm not relapsing into a depressive episode. That's the last thing I want to do, and I've put so much work and effort into my life as to not relapse into a depressive episode again. But it's still like a lingering thought in the back of my head, like, ooh, you know, the depression boogeyman might reach out of the closet and grab me by the ass and pull me back in, and I won't really have too big of a say in it. I very much still enjoy playing video games. That's a lifelong passion that I have had and will probably continue to have from now until the ceasing of my existence. And I think most recently the games I've been playing have they've been kind of keeping me going on the creative grind. I've been playing a lot of two games in particular. I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter, and I've been playing a lot of Cyberpunk 2077. Both are fantastic games that I would recommend to anybody whose taste is even a little like mine. And I actually plan on making a video about Monster Hunter here soon, hopefully. But like I said, with this kind of creative slump I'm in, I'm unsure if I'm going to be able to follow through with that anytime in the near future. But both have been excellent games to me. Monster Hunter is a series that I've been with since I was, I think, 8 years old, 2015, roughly, when Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate came out on the 3DS. Shout out to the 3DS being the best console of all time, by the way. I remember very vividly how I managed to find it sort of on accident. I was staying the weekend with my grandfather, and kind of our routine is I would go over to his house. We'd eat dinner, we'd hang out. He would get me drawing supplies and other things to kind of occupy my time while I was there. We would go to church on Sunday morning, and then he would take me to Toys R Us, and I could get a toy or a video game. And I picked the video game literally every time, because toys, once you discover video games, are basically obsolete, which honestly I think is for the better, considering how many toys are made of just fucking microplastics that eventually get thrown away and end up in some poor goddamn sea turtle at the bottom of the ocean or something. And at the time that I discovered Monster Hunter, I had recently seen video of a game called Ark Survival Evolved. Actually, hold on. I need to look up if Ark Survival Evolved was even real at the time. 2017. Okay, so it wasn't actually available at the time. I don't know where I came up with that. I must have literally completely been hallucinating that idea. But I saw footage of some game that looked roughly like Ark Survival Evolved. I don't really know what it was, but the big feature of it is that you would go around with your friends online, and it was obviously a fucking PC game. It was a very high fidelity graphics game, clearly not for the 3DS. But I was 8 years old, so give me a fucking break. I was like, holy shit, this has a monster on the cover. It's called Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, so it must be pretty cool. And it's hunting monsters, so it literally has to be the same game that I saw on YouTube a couple days ago. It has to be. It can't be anything else. And I got it, and I was severely disappointed at the time. Anybody who's ever played a Monster Hunter game knows that it is not a super flashy thing. In fact, it's rather boring, especially in the older generation games. In terms of gameplay, it's very slow and kind of methodical. But I was very disappointed by that, because it wasn't this crazy game that I thought it was. But I didn't want to, either A, ask my grandpa if he could go and return the game or exchange it for something else, or B, just kind of let it sit in my 3DS game case and just kind of rot away. So I ended up playing it, and I think that was probably the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. I immediately fell in love with it. The game was hard and challenging, but more than anything, it had this sort of world building that I'd never seen before. It was this very... Monster Hunter features this very complex, diverse ecosystem of a lot of different things going on at once. And it all kind of comes together to make something special in terms of world building and as far as environments and stuff goes. And I immediately fell in love with it, and I started playing it, and it was just like my eyes had opened up to the world. And I think 2 or 3 years later, Monster Hunter Generations would come out, the next game in the series, and I'd play the hell out of that. And once I got done with that, I was like, holy shit, I need more of this. And I started doing research, and of course it's Monster Hunter 4, so there has to be more Monster Hunter games before it. There's quite a few Monster Hunter games before it, actually, all of which I own and are on my shelf over there right now. And that was the start of me learning how to emulate. Learning to emulate was a difficult challenge for a roughly 9 to 10-year-old, given that I had very limited access to technology and good computers. But I managed to make it work, and I learned how to emulate the old Monster Hunter games, which are all on consoles that were not readily available to me at the time. Older stuff like the PS2 or the PSP, the PlayStation Portable, is where all of those games are. And I learned how to emulate, and I pirated them, and I played them illegally, and I loved it so much. And I think part of why I love Monster Hunter so much now, even though it's kind of... It's changed quite a bit in terms of style and gameplay, is because it gives me this just unbelievable sense of wonder and discovery that I had never even reckoned to be possible at that point. And I think that's a feeling that I really, really miss, and I'm really deprived of in my life right now. And I want more of it. Hypothetically, doing the exchange student program would grant me access to just this whole new plane of existence, and everyone who I've ever talked to about doing an exchange program has said that it's literally the best idea that they've ever had and the best thing they've ever done in their entire life. My podcasting teacher, actually I shouldn't say his name on the internet, my bad. When he found out that I had aspirations to live in another country in the future, just told me that it was to do it. Like, don't even hesitate to say yes to it. And I value his advice very much, but I'm definitely hesitating to do such a thing right now for all of the reasons that I've mentioned previously. And if I'm being honest, I think the biggest through line between my struggle with content creation and the way I'm feeling in my normal life is that I just feel very, very afraid of changing things up and trying to do something new. If I do end up doing an exchange student program, that's one of the biggest changes that a high schooler can undergo. You know what I mean? You're going to this completely different place that you've never been before, hypothetically. I've literally never left the United States. I've lived here my whole life, and I've been all around the place, and the US is a big country, but we're all pretty much the same. Like, there don't get me wrong, there's variation, but you go from one place to another, and it's all around a pretty similar experience. At least from the perspective of somebody who lives here. And so going to somewhere like Japan would be this massive change in my life, and given I I would not be a complete stranger in a strange land. I have studied Japanese for a couple years now, and I know the culture fairly well from my martial arts that I've been practicing. And it's not necessarily an alien planet to me like it is for a lot of people that end up going there. But there's still so much information and nuance that you can't really get until you do live in a place for a while and kind of get used to the day-by-day flow, that I'm still relatively afraid of going, just because it's going to be that much more different from everything I've experienced so far. Am I still going to do it and apply? Yes, almost certainly. By the time people are hearing this video, I will have applied to it and hopefully will get in before it's too late. But what that means in terms of me making content is weird, because I don't know what my schedule will be like there. I don't know what life will be like there. I'll just have to figure it out, and whether or not that will enable me to make content that I want to make, or something new entirely. Fuck, I might just go ahead and say screw it and sell my soul and become a vlogging travel channel, a daily vlog channel where I document my life there. That might be cool. Please, people watching this video who are fans of my content, tell me if that's something that you'd want to see out of me. But I think this video that you're watching right now is more or less just a public recorded therapy session for me to kind of figure out where I'm going with my life, and I guess puzzle out what I'm to make of the current situation that I'm in. The people in my podcast class that are probably watching this or listening to the audio version right now are getting to know me better than a lot of people that I talk to on a daily basis are, and I find that to be a little strange, but honestly, I'm okay with it. There's a certain disconnect that you have from the world when you're making content creation. Fucking hell. When I upload a video and I talk about my own personal experience, I have this degree of separation from you guys. I can sort of, I'll talk about this openly all I want, because at the end of the day, nobody watching this will ever see it. But the people in my podcasting class, they definitely will see it. And I guess I just have to be okay with the fact that I'm spilling my guts out right now, because there's no chance in hell I'm finishing the Blood Meridian video before the project is due. It's not happening. I physically cannot force myself to sit down and edit that out right now. And so I'm here playing Minecraft at midnight and hoping that this conversation is entertaining enough for people. A big part of why I wanted to cover Blood Meridian in a video is because I feel that it gives us a very authentic view into the nature of violence and depravity that we are increasingly seeing more and more in the modern world. Obviously, day by day, things are going crazy. At the time that this video is being produced, or this podcast is being listened to, Israel and Palestine are going fucking bonkers. The Ukrainian war, the war in Ukraine is still going on. Everything's kind of going bananas, and people are... It is not an uncommon occurrence for me to open TikTok and find, 5 posts in 10 minutes about how the fucking world is ending right now. And that's a very scary time to live in. Obviously, since the world has been around, there have been people saying that it was going to end. That's just the nature of shit. But even though it's probably not going to happen. There's always a chance, and the closer we get to advanced warfare and violence and concepts of, you know, military takeover by foreign, you know, sources, whether it be Russia, I think is what people are scared of, or like a war with China. That's the other thing that the TikTok crowd is real concerned with right now. The more valid those concerns feel, and if you're a person who feels that way, I want you to understand that it's okay to feel that way. And that the world is a very, very scary place, that it might just end. But Blood Meridian is a novel that, it's a cowboy novel, and it's about, you know, crazy people doing crazy things in the Wild West, and absolutely awful people doing awful things to good people. It's also a story about good people pushing past that sort of awfulness and making something out of it, and choosing to help others and themselves instead of kind of dwelling on this remedial, nihilistic, violent philosophy that inhabits almost everything that we kind of know right now. And I think it's important for people to know that you don't have to be afraid. You can push past it, and even though, you know, shit is scary, you can make something of the world, even if it is rife with this sort of uncontrollable bloodshed that so many people perceive it as. There are good people in this world that want to help others, and they want to help you, and if you're struggling with something, you shouldn't feel alone. That was the thesis of the Blood Meridian video. Will I ever finish making it? I don't know. With the way my brain is working right now, probably not. And instead, I'm playing Minecraft at midnight. But I think I should just listen to my podcasting teacher. I trust his opinions on things. He told me that the best content that I have and the best things that I produce come from the moments when I'm just going. I'm not thinking about a script or anything, and I just go off on a tangent. And that's what I've been doing for this whole video. But I'm definitely still afraid that it's not gonna be as good as people might have been expecting. The outcome of this podcast is probably going to be shocking to people in my class, because I've spent the past 2 to 3 months talking about Blood Meridian and its narrative themes and how I'm going to cover them and the order in which I'm going to cover them. And instead of turning that in, I'm turning in what is essentially a narrated Minecraft Let's Play. And that fear of disappointing not just them, but my teachers and my friends and my family who come to kind of expect my content to be this certain level of quality is honestly really, really scary. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of driving me to keep making content even when I necessarily don't want to make exactly what I've been producing this whole time. In the process of making the Blood Meridian script, I realized that I don't really enjoy the process of writing. I don't really enjoy sitting down and typing words out on a page. And people tell me that I'm good at it, sure, but if there's no passion behind something, I don't really think there's a reason to pursue it, especially on like an individual basis. It's different if you are working a job or something for the sole point of gaining money, because, well, then you work the job that you don't really like, you make money, and then you go do things that you do like when you have enough. I currently work as a retails associate, I think is my title, at a local pet store, and that's something that I do honestly enjoy it a little bit. It is better than any of the other jobs that I've had so far, in my life. But I'm still working at a fucking pet store. You know what I mean? It's rare that you ask little Timmy what he wants to be and he says, I want to work at a retail store when I grow up. That doesn't happen, really. And so the ultimate goal of this job, as is with many other low-level positions, is to work my ass off now and then go and do something that I enjoy later in the future. But I kind of want to skip that part. Why do I have to sit here and do something that I don't enjoy for seemingly no reason at all when I could immediately go and develop the skills I need to start doing things that I like now? I think is the big kind of line of logic that I'm struggling with currently. Why do I have to sit here and do all of this menial labor at school and work so that later on in my life I can go do what I actually want to do, which, for people who know me, I want to be an English teacher. Because I enjoy talking and lecturing and teaching people about subjects that enable them to think about this crazy fucking ball spinning through nothingness that we all live on, that we're all born into without any idea of consent, and we're just kind of made to be here. And I think that's leading me into this sort of spiral, and it's not really a spiral that I'm enjoying. I'm always on this sort of high alert in terms of where my mental health is at. I was going to cover my mental health history in a video that I was producing, the one on the milk inside a bag of milk inside a bag of milk game. And I was going to spend a lot of time talking about my history with depression and suicidal ideation and anxiety, and kind of how a lot of the guilt and regret that I carry with me in my day-to-day life is the driving force behind that. But now I don't know if that video is ever going to get made, and maybe those thoughts will just never be heard by anyone. Which is another thing that I am scared of literally all the time. The world is this sort of crazy, abstract place that doesn't really make sense. You'll talk to people who call themselves adults who think that they know anything about the world. I don't believe them, personally. When anybody tells me, oh, I have my life figured out, I know what I'm doing, I laugh to myself silently, because I know that that is the biggest crock of shit that they're feeding not only me, but themselves. They're lying to themselves in an attempt to give themselves some sort of comfort in this world, which everybody needs comfort of some kind. But I think that saying you know what you're doing and that you know what your life is about and where you're going is probably the biggest lie that you can tell yourself. And in the end, with all of this craziness going on, the best that we can do is find little individual ways of coping with it. And for me, for the past bit, that's been making YouTube videos, but before that, it was drawing, and the most recent of which has been Japanese martial arts. And I think in the weirdest way possible, Iaido, which is the art I practice, is kind of like my church. I'm not religious at all. I don't believe in God, even a little bit. I lost my faith when I was pretty young, but I still feel like everybody has to have something akin to church, and if they don't, they kind of feel sad. You know what I mean? I go to Iaido class, and I'm surrounded by people who I trust are wiser and more experienced than me, and give me knowledge and perspective on this new kind of confusing life and situation that I'm finding myself in, being a teenager on the cusp of adulthood, and I can find comfort in that while doing a group activity, in church, it's singing or praying, and in Iaido, it's throwing swords around and pretending like I'm being attacked by fucking ninjas and samurai and shit. And I think that's to my benefit, and I do have a real passion for Iaido. It's very Zen meditation-like, but the pattern that has happened with things that I've enjoyed and viewed as kind of creative outlets for myself, I'm scared that I'm gonna wake up one of these days and that I am no longer going to be able to enjoy doing it. And that sense of kind of community and comfort that I find in Iaido isn't really going to exist for me anymore. And I'm scared of that with all of the things I enjoy. I'm scared I'm gonna wake up one day and the world of Monster Hunter isn't going to feel nearly as exciting or worth discovering to me, or that I'm gonna wake up and all of a sudden the people in my life that I really love and care about the most, I'm gonna feel nothing toward them. And it's something I live with all the time, and it's this sort of constant weight that I don't really know if it'll ever go away, but I'm certain that there's some sort of treatment for it, and I just need to find what it is. And I think that thing is going to be me getting a new perspective on life and the world and sort of things going on by going someplace new or doing something that I haven't done before, and I just need to find that thing. And because I'm on this kind of active hunt to find that thing, I'm doing all sorts of stuff that I don't think I ever would have done before. Recently, in my weight training class, a girl that I've talked to maybe a handful of times approached me and said, like, hey, did you see my poster? And I was like, what fucking poster are you talking about? And she was like, oh, I'm offering balalaika lessons, which, in case you've never heard of it, the balalaika is an Eastern European instrument that has 3 strings and a big ol' fucking triangle for a body, and you hold it between your legs, and it's actually pretty sick. And I was thinking about it, and I just went, fucking, why not? Why not just do it? Why not just sign up for the classes and just learn a new instrument? Might as well. I have been rediscovering old instruments that I've loved playing. I've been playing the ukulele and the trombone recently, and really just getting into music. I have a band that I've been a part of for the past year that I'm practicing for daily. Might as well learn a new skill that I'm going to use in my, potential everyday life as a part of a band. And so I did it, and next Tuesday, from my point of recording this, I have balalaika lessons with somebody that I've never really talked to before that is almost completely different from me. And maybe that'll be the thing that works. Maybe, for whatever reason, learning how to play a random instrument that I've never even heard of before a couple days ago will be the thing that pulls me out of this slump and allows me to go back to doing the things that I want to do with these new, fresh eyes on the world and ways of viewing things, and that'll be it, and I'll be able to finally move on from whatever this weird fucking dip that I'm in right now is. And as I'm talking about this and saying this, I'm starting to think that maybe this sort of bleh that I've been stuck in is going to be much more of a good thing for me than I have really been anticipating. If this sort of lack of interest and motivation to do things I love and have previously loved in the past is starting to push me towards doing new crazy things and get new skills that better myself and give me that sort of rush of dopamine that we all crave in our day-to-day life, I'm thinking maybe it's a good thing. And maybe by embracing the fact that my brain is changing and my life is changing, and that there are ways to get through it, and that way is to just try new shit and do something different with my life, I'll get past it. I honestly didn't think that doing this and playing Minecraft and kind of talking out loud to myself would work in the way that it just kind of did for me and make me kind of click like that. But it did. And I think I need to be doing this way more often. I feel really strange right now, and just the tiniest bit scared. I don't necessarily know if my podcasting teacher is going to enjoy what I'm turning in, and I don't necessarily know if people watching this video and on YouTube are going to really enjoy it, because it's such a massive departure from the content that I normally produce. But regardless, I think I'm going to keep doing it. I think that this is one of those new things that might just fix my perception and feelings towards the world right now. And it's just, even if it isn't, I'm starting to think that it's worth pursuing. If I do make more content like this in the future, might as well profit off of it a little bit and gain a bit of an audience. People in the comments, you should tell me what games I should play while I give myself therapy. I've been thinking about doing Monster Hunter, playing some Monster Hunter games while I talk to myself. I may be playing Dark Souls or something, which is one of my other favorite games of all time, while I'm giving myself therapy, and just, I don't really know, but I think my goal in this, and kind of talking to myself, and by extension the audience, about my feelings and where I am in life, is going to be the means in which I grow and develop as a person, and hopefully people that watch this video or enjoy my content get something similar out of it. But for now, it's pretty late at night, and I think I've reached the conclusion for today's episode of this, at least. I don't know what I'm going to be calling this. Should I just talking about my feelings or something? I'll title it that. But I think I've reached a conclusion, and I hope that people who are struggling with something similar to me right now, or in a similar stage of their life to me, can get some comfort out of this, and knowing that other people feel the same way as you do, and that, you know, there are ways to work through it. But for now, thanks to everybody who's listening. Thank you to my podcasting teacher for giving me this idea, albeit indirectly. I don't know how you'll feel about giving me this idea if you end up disliking the podcast. But nonetheless, I appreciate you. And I appreciate everyone watching this video. And I hope everybody has a good night. And I'll see you next time.